I'm Gaz, and this is Let's Play Werewolf the Apocalypse, Heart of the Forest. This is another one of those text-based decision-making games, visual novel type things. I know even less about the werewolf universe than I do the Vampire the Masquerade universe. This game is not made by the same company that made the vampire games that I played previously, so I don't know how this is going to play out exactly, but the werewolf universe is in the same, or the werewolf world is the same universe as the Vampire the Masquerade, and I don't know if they cross over or anything, but I guess we'll find out. So let's start a new game. Prologue, Premonition. This game is about rage and how it helps us do things that need to be done, as well as things we later regret. Sometimes both. How do you feel about that? I'm okay with anger when it's useful. Your rage is balanced. So you're the critical and analytical type. That's okay. There's no right path here, just your decisions and their consequences. My decisions, well, I mean, fair and just is okay until it's not, so let's just follow the path and see where it takes us. Spirituality went up. Forest. The woods are full of stars. They flicker, come closer, run away. They want me to chase them, to play hide and seek. Okay, analytical and inspiring. I watch as they dance around the tree trunks, float up on the gusts of wind that shiver through the branches, disappear among the leaves. There are words in their dance, but I don't understand them, not yet. Then they bunch up and fly toward me like an arrow, rushing down. They're soon upon me, but just before the spear of light pierces my breast, they disappear, and the dark of the night returns. We are balanced. In the darkness I feel the tangled roots of stories keeping the forest alive, and I hear the spirits asking me to judge the enemy. I open my eyes, and then I wake up. So I'm guessing that this said like Crino or something. That must be my werewolf form, and then I am Maia, the Humid? Maybe? Maybe? Cold and alone. Confused, I open my eyes. The forest around me is thick, dark, and reeks of decay to such an extent that it's hard to breathe. Why am I here? My head is spinning. Why am I here? There must be a reason. The tree trunks, wrapped tightly in dark-leaved ivy, are covered in ripples of lichen where the vines haven't taken hold. The thorny, leafless bushes at their base are overrun with nettles. The fungi radiate from a ghoulish, sickly green light. Dark, sponge-like mushrooms cling to the fallen trees. Try to breathe. I take a deep breath and suddenly realize that it's not the forest that smells so foul. It's me. I look down and see my hands covered in a dark substance. I am naked. A sticky, glistening film of liquid is clinging to my skin. I can feel it on my face, in my hair. Blood. Well, I mean, it's kind of hard to roleplay this, knowing, you know, in a dramatic irony kind of way that we are obviously a werewolf, so we know what's happening. Let's be alert. We must still be in character creation here. Nature is never quiet. The leaves rustle in the wind. Small creatures scuttle in the undergrowth. There's a whisper. I don't understand what it means, but the word resonates in my head. Garo. So is that my pack? Who said that? There's a severed head right in front of me. Some choices are hard to make, and they strain your willpower. So I lose willpower or I lose rage. We have more rage, so I guess I'm gonna be sick. Although, I don't know, I guess I'm kind of curious to see what this is. So let me click on this real quick, and I hope this doesn't take us out of anything here. So we're mostly spiritual. I have no idea how that is how that is represented here, so let's just be sick. The face is contorted, the eyes bulging, the mouth open, tongue stuck out. It's obscene. I feel bile rising in my throat, and I start to retch. And then, eyes open in the darkness. Who is it? I can see their silhouettes, shades of jet black against the darkness. They smell of fur and moss and bloodied earth. Massive creatures, some with horns, some with antlers. Their eyes burn like small fiery windows into hell. I look at them, and something wakes inside of me. So I guess I can't be defiant now because I'm low on rage? Indicates that this choice is available because of your current stats. Oh. So because I have low rage, I can be defiant. Is that? Okay, let's be defiant then. Stop panicking. My spirituality is going way up. I have no idea what that means. They tell me stories of their lost battles and dying hopes, and I say no. I tell them my stories of the enemy and how they are so stupid, so clueless that we almost feel pity as we kill them. They listen and laugh. I laugh with them. In a moment of clarity, I almost understand what the forest wants from me. And then I wake up. Chapter 1, Arrival. So, I think Garo must be my my werewolf clan, similar to vampire clans. I have no idea what that actually entails. That's unfortunate. Maybe I should have done a little more research on the characters and whatnot. Because if this plays like the vampire games, and again, this is a different company that made this game, but if it is like that, then I should probably make decisions based upon the characteristics of who I'm supposed to be. Anyway, start the chapter. Dreams. Maia. Maia? Maia, wake up. Okay, I'm balanced in rage, so I jerk upright. My neck is stiff, and the movement sent a sudden sharp wave of pain through my body. I wasn't in the forest anymore. I was in a bus. The sun streaming through the windows was making it hard to see. The girl next to me was touching my shoulder, disturbed. Well, we don't want to lose any more stuff, right? So we'll just keep going here? Sure. I snap at her. I am neutral with Anya. Okay. I'm okay, I snapped, more harshly than I'd intended. When your rage is high, you might say and do things you later regret. Okay, fair enough. She looked at me hurt. We were laughing, like, maniacally. I blinked. The memory of the dream was still there, and the taste of blood in my mouth. I looked outside. The narrow road cut through a dense old forest. It was the one from my dreams. We're almost there, said the girl next to me. Her name was Anya. We'd met a couple weeks earlier on the orientation day. She was from Norway, a tall, broad-shouldered, calm person who wore her hair long in braids. Somehow, I'd managed to talk her into this crazy field trip across the land of my ancestors. A thing to note about the text here, there's an option in, the settings, where you can change this to be, accessible. Specifically, you can change the font so it is friendly to dyslexics, which is incredible. Not that maybe I do. I think everyone's got a little bit of dyslexia, but that kind of accessibility is something that I find, along with like color blindness settings and all that, is not in many games. So kudos. Anyway, we were there to study medicine, or are we? Anya is neutral. Sure, let's always take the extra options. Why not? She looks content. Anya reached into her backpack and took out 2 apples. Are you excited to finally be here? She asked as she tossed me one. Yeah, I said, biting into my apple. It was sweet, but a little soft. I was glad Anya had decided to come with me. I had problems keeping friends around and really needed one. I did some searching, she said from over her phone, and this place is amazing. The last primordial forest in Europe. This trip was my idea. Our summer language course was starting in a few weeks, and I'd managed to talk Anya into skipping the tours of concentration camps and old churches and visit Bialowieza? I have no idea. Sure, Bialowieza National Park with me instead. So far it's beautiful, she said, her eyes smiling, but why are we here again? Good question. Why were we there? There being Białowieża, a small village in northeast Poland. Okay, so I have no hope. If this is Polish, I have no hope of guessing how it's pronounced. Near the border of Belarus. It was famous for its national park, the very last European bison, and according to a quick web search, occasional tensions between far-right troublemakers and the local Belarusian community. The most honest answer would have been because I've been dreaming about the forest, and since I can remember, but people didn't understand when I said things like that. I looked her in the eyes. I told her everything. I told her as much as I could. Sure. It's a complicated family matter. Okay. I wanted to see the forest. I heard it was a must. That wasn't technically a lie. When I was little, my grandfather told me stories about an ancient forest full of wonders and the wolves that lived in it. It was all I got from that part of the family before my mom took me, ran away, and cut off all contact with my dad. But I remembered the stories well, and I remembered the name of the forest. Oh my God. This will always be our home, my grandfather used to say. I waited for her to respond. Anya fell silent for a moment. Anya is neutral. You know what? Let's see how it rolls, she said at last with a smile. If your drama becomes too much for me, I'll just split and go sightseeing by myself. So that's where we stood. And that was precisely why I needed to do something, anything, about my future. That damn forest, and my weird-ass family. I had a clear goal in mind. What is... Okay, so it's just a menu. I don't know why I'd need to pause anything, but... I wasn't there by mistake. I'd planned this trip for months, with a clear goal in mind. I guess I had to face the forest? I don't know. Learn the truth about my roots, figure out my destiny, and, I don't know, this feels like a cliche answer. Like, I've been dreaming... And I say this, I am currently reading the manga version of The Call of Cthulhu, and the guy who does that is apparently doing as many of the Lovecraftian stories as possible. But this is a very Cthulhian thing. Like, you have a dream about it, and then you go seek it out. So, sure, I had to face the forest. Goal is a mystery. Learn about the forest. My dreams, my grandfather's stories, the fact my family was from there were just too many coincidences. The forest wanted something from me, and it was time to find out what. There was a mystery to uncover and an adventure to be had. I couldn't wait. Welcome home. So the fact that there's health here seems to imply that we are going to now have a combat mechanic in this game that was not in, the other kind of game. So it's going to be one of those games. It's going to be like a fighting fantasy type game. The place looked like an overexposed photo of a village with the contrast turned all the way up. Heat was pouring from the cloudless sky, scorching the earth, the trees, the grass, the wooden houses, the fences. Everything looked slightly past its best, weary, worn out. Everything except the shadows. They were sharp, as though they were freshly printed with the darkest of inks. And they moved. For a second I could have sworn they'd moved, but then I realized it was just a black cat walking down the sidewalk. When it saw me, it stopped in its tracks. Well, if we're spiritual, maybe we're also a little superstitious. Well, let's watch it with suspicion. Hey, do you think there are rabid cats? Because this one is acting weird. I mean, there are rabid squirrels. Why not cats? She shrugged, looking around. Didn't you say your friend would be waiting for us? But he wasn't there. The cat was still staring at me. Let's go. Anya put on her backpack. I'm tired and I really, really need to find a toilet. For a moment, I was tempted to just get out of the sun and worry about my missing friend later. Well, so, like, I'm really determined to find out about the forest. I'm not, I don't know. Maybe he's in the toilet. Let's be disappointed and just go on. Why not? You always go alone, right? Well, we're not alone. I grabbed my backpack and started walking. I hate when people break their promises, I muttered under my breath. Anya caught up with me. Don't worry, you'll find him later. Yeah, that's a little bit of a melodramatic response, actually. Bread and breakfast. The village had a few hotels and hostels, but the preferred form of accommodation was bread and breakfasts. That's where we stayed. Not really sure why you get single option options. I mean, it's just I guess it helps to keep you from being bored. From a design standpoint, it is player interactivity. I found one that was nice, clean, and had good reviews. We had a room on the second floor with a huge window and a great view of the forest. We dropped off our stuff and freshened up a bit. Maybe we should have waited for your friend? Anya asks, concerned. I shrugged. I'll find him sooner or later. Before you go, check out your character sheet. Look for it in the upper right corner of the screen. You can find a load of useful info about Maia, her background, personality, goals, and so on there. You can also check who your friends and who your enemies are. Okay, sure. So, we are a 24-year-old American student, highly spiritual, somewhat inspiring, a little bit cunning, a little bit analytical. We have a healthy mind and body, with a goal to understand the forest and pursue to regain willpower. Oh, okay. Well, we're okay there. But okay, well, I don't know. We are neutral with this girl that we just... she's a friend from university that we met from Norway, and she just decided to come along even though we're sort of ambivalent about each other. That's very weird. I feel like I've already kind of screwed that one up. But anyway, okay, so, cool. This is a quaint tourist town, but I had other things in mind. The lay of the land. I had a clear goal in mind. The forest was calling me, and I was ready to answer the call. Anya went with you. Indicates a change in Maia's current stats. Your character sheet may contain more details. Okay. Well, the town my ancestors lived in. Let's go check out the forest while it's still daylight, presumably. A moon phase, waxing gibbous. Boy, it's summer already. Okay, it's not telling me what time it is, though, so... Let's head to the forest, check it out. We can always putz around town later, when the sun goes down. Oh, look who's here. Into the woods. It was dark in the woods. Dark, humid, and chilly. In June? The leaves didn't let through a lot of the sunlight. Daniel looked at Anya and me over his shoulder. How do you like her? We'd met maybe 20 minutes earlier, okay? I feel like that transition could have been a little bit tighter. Anya had Googled local guides, and he was apparently the best person to go to if you wanted to see the forest, so I found him, and now here we were. I'm not sure who we'd met. You mean the forest? I asked. Polish was a strange language that gave the most unexpected genders to objects and ideas. Oh my Christ, what is that? Pushka, what the fuck? Sure, we'll go with Pushka, I'm sure that's wrong. Is the right word, not forest. Forests are like fields or orchards, cultivated. He spat as he said it. Pushka is older than even the concept of fields. He was using the word as though it was a name. I stood there and watched the forest. I looked around with fresh eyes. I felt as though I had entered... Indicates that this version of the story happened because of your current stats. Okay, so your stats apparently, more than your decisions, seem... Well, I mean, obviously we started with decisions, but that is what dictates the story. I felt as though I'd entered an ancient tomb. Gigantic dead trunks were decomposing slowly around me, young plants and colorful mushrooms sprouting from them. The trees that still lived stretched toward the sky like columns holding up the vaulted canopy, which blocked out all but a few rays of sunlight. There was stillness, and there was movement, darkness and light. If spirits existed, that place would be swarming with them. It was alien? See, I don't know. Hold on a minute. I'm gonna do a thing real quick here. Okay, so Garo is actually the werewolf term for werewolves. Seeing as how this game came out of the 80s culture, like many role-playing games and such did, I'm assuming they just adopted the Japanese word for wolf. But anyhow, so I have no indication then what my particular tribe or bloodline is, so I have no idea what I'm supposed to actually be doing. I guess I just go with it. So, sure, we're kind of spiritual. We are sympathetic with Daniel. Or maybe he is sympathetic, I don't know. There should be more places like this, I said earnestly. Or more of this place. Daniel lifted his head and looked me right in the eyes. Yes, you're right, he said with a serious expression. He was a strange guy, slender but muscular. Not the CrossFit type, it was more the kind of strength you get from working all day long in the open. His skin was weather-beaten and bronzed by the sun, like tanned leather, and he moved in a very deliberate way. But his fingers were slim and delicate, and his eyes were the strangest shade of yellow-green. Then I remembered why I was there. I told them that I dreamed about the forest. There's a special reason I'm interested in the forest, I admitted. I'm not from here, I continued, but I think something secret connects me to this place. I dream about the forest a lot. Daniel stopped abruptly and turned to me, watching me for a while. His nostrils flared as though he were tasting the air. Daniel's a werewolf. Yes, his face broke into a smile. I think our families might have known each other many winters past. Pushka remembers. Come on, he started walking. I know exactly what you need to see. That piqued my interest. Gonna get some willpower out of this, I guess. Hint, the forest recognized me. Oh, good. Progressed toward the goal, mystery. So I was right. There was something hidden in my family's past, and it seemed to have a lot to do with the forest. Every time you learn or do something significant that brings you closer to your goal, you regain willpower. With every step I get closer to solving the mystery. Now is there a new goal, then? Understand what connects you to the forest, pursue... Okay, gives you... The forest recognized me as if I had a legacy connected here. What's the connection? Okay. Well, I follow him. At the crossroads. We have to choose a path, he said. There's the old wolf den, or I could show you the barrows first. Or a clearing that some folks call a place of power? Well, we are spiritual, so I'm going to assume maybe this then, huh? Magic, a tourist trap? Old stories, families divided, or ancient graves and buried secrets. I would assume that we can come back to these, but maybe not. Well, since we're highly spiritual, by highly I mean, less than average, really, I guess. I'm not really sure how these correspond. I know in, like, Dungeons and Dragons, like, level 3 or level 2 is actually, like, normal human level, as opposed to 5, but, anyway, let's just go here, to the place of power. Just one small thing. We started walking, but after a few steps he stopped abruptly, like he'd remembered something. Then he turned to me. Could you do me a favor, please? It depends. I don't know, I said slowly. Why don't you tell me what you want first? He ran his hand through the moss on a dead tree trunk, smelled his fingers, and then reached into his pocket. He took out a small stone. Something personal? It looked like one of those stones you treasure as a child and then grow out of. But he looked at the pebble as though it was still a treasure. The game tracks your decisions on how Maia approaches problems. They will accumulate and gradually reveal what kind of person she is, deep in her heart. The story changes to reflect Maia's personality. I would like you to take this stone. He held out his hand, open towards me, and throw it in the direction you think we should go. Okay. I did what he asked. Okay, I said, reaching for the stone. I took the stone and closed my hand around it. Be careful, whispered Anya. I mean, it's just a stone, but It felt alive? See, I mean, am I just making this up? Well, yes, it literally says that the story changes to your decision, so I am basically co-narrating how this story goes. I'm just going to be curious. It was warm, and I felt grounded when I squeezed it. I closed my eyes and thought about the place of power, trying to imagine that place. I thought about energy emanating from the ground, filling me to the top of my head. I would see myself standing barefoot on the moss, surrounded by trees. I threw the stone. I felt my hand rising entirely on its own and then throwing the stone as far as I could. When I opened my eyes, Daniel was picking it up off the ground. "Okay," he said, "let's go." What was the purpose of this? The forest is sympathetic. What was that for? I demanded. To introduce you, he answered with a faint smile before he turned to head deeper into the forest. Well, that's good. I would hate for the forest to be angry with me. A buzzing in my ears. It started with the hair on the back of my hands rising. The air around me seemed brighter, lighter. The leaves in the tree trunks turned yellow and my skin started to prickle. I realized that I couldn't hear anything except for a low buzzing that was filling my ears. I tripped and lost balance for a second, and when I caught myself, everything around me was swaying, dissolving into the buzzing. I had to do something. Snap out of it. Well, we are inspiring and spiritual, so try to clear my mind? Let's not be reactionary here. I closed my eyes and tried to focus. The weird sensation was coming from within, after all. I just needed to find its source. But I wasn't the source, I realized. It was only resonating. The source was somewhere else. I opened my eyes. 3 Wolf Moon. I opened my eyes, and when I did, I was looking straight at a clearing. I could see the silhouette of a person between the trees. Okay, they were moving slowly, deliberately, and the moment I noticed them, I felt the buzzing slow down. I approached. The clearing was a plateau between huge boulders. There were double-trunked trees between the rocks and an angular wooden construction that stuck out of the ground like a sore thumb. There was a bike leaning on it, but more importantly, there was a man, and he was moving in the most beautiful, harmonious way I'd ever seen. It was hypnotizing. I looked at him for a moment, at the way his muscles danced under his tanned skin, trying to trace his movements. Before every grand gesture, every stretch, and every push, there was a micro-movement, an impulse from his core, but I could feel it was even deeper. The energy that had been filling me earlier took form. It was flowing in rhythm with his steps, with the flow of his hands. The words came out of my mouth, seemingly without my knowing. What did he do? What did you do? He smiled. It's a little bit complicated, like my family. He stretched his hands towards me. I'm Cornell, he said with a hard German accent. Shouldn't you be on the logging site? Daniel asked after I introduced myself. I needn't center myself, he answered. The others are still there. Don't worry. Center himself? Here? How could you come here to center yourself? I asked, remembering the buzzing, restless energy from just moments before. This place is special, Daniel said. Some people call it a place of power, as I told you. And they have good reason to, Cornell added. Look around you. So I looked. It was a clearing filled with light. I could see Cornell's traces, a beautiful pattern on the ground, but there was one thing that caught my attention more than anything else. Tower spoiled the serenity of the scene. There's a tower. Boulders are strange. Fruit trees? I mean, so the more rage, though, we don't necessarily want rage right now, right? That we were kind of told that the more rage, the worse off we would be in our responses. We'd be more huffy. So let's just ask about the strange boulders. These rocks, someone brought them here, right? I asked, looking at the boulders, which upon closer inspection formed a circle. The stones were irregular and nestled deep in the ground. People believe this was a place of worship thousands of years ago, hence the fruit trees, the stone circle, and now the tower. And indeed, there's a lot of energy in this place. You felt it, didn't you? Yeah. We are neutral with Cornell. I felt it, I said without enthusiasm. The pushka is wounded and in pain, and it calls out in rage to anyone who can hear it. Here, this call is louder, you see, the logging. His eyes darkened. Is slaughter. Anya gasped quietly. Every priceless thing can be destroyed by greed. Logging is illegal, of course, but illegal is sometimes just a way of saying a bit more expensive, but still profitable, especially for huge corporations. The forest is hurt. The wound is getting bigger, as is its desperation. What does the forest want me to do about it? Highly spiritual. Cornell is now sympathetic. I frowned. I need more time to figure this all out, I murmured. I was sensitive to what was happening here, so maybe I should use that and pay attention. Maybe the answer was hidden somewhere in the forest. Cornell regarded me for a moment with a faint smile. You have a connection with this forest, don't you? You should come to the logging site and meet everyone. Absolutely, Anya said eagerly. Little Miss just came along for the ride, who was like, tree murder? Is like, yeah, let's go meet the murderers. Okay, whatever. Can you help me with my strange dreams? Let's remember we have a goal. He is now friendly. I looked him over for a moment. Hey, did any of you maybe have strange dreams about the forest before you got here? He looked at me, a look of concern in his eyes. As I said, you seem to be connected with the forest, and very sensitive to the things that are happening here. Pay attention to your dreams, especially tonight. This place is known to communicate in that way. He jumped suddenly and looked at the wooden tower and the bike I'd noticed earlier. Die Schwalbe? Is that how you pronounce that? Christ, I'm gonna have to learn my European before I can keep doing this. Is getting restless, he said, and as Daniel pointed out, I should be on the logging site setting up the protest. The Schwalbe? What is a Schwalbe? I asked, confused. He named his bike Swallow, Daniel explained. He loves it very much. Cornell grinned. Oh, I do. Nice meeting you, Maia. All I wanted to do was get out of there. Oh, it is now afternoon. The moment he disappeared, the buzzing came back. It wasn't as strong as before, but it was there. All I wanted to do was get out of there. Through the forest, we went on through the greenery. The buzzing in my ears slowly decreased. Okay. Well, I think that's a good place to end this first episode. In the meantime, I think I will do myself a little bit of a favor and brush up a little bit on maybe a primer for the Werewolf universe. Go and figure out how the hell you pronounce some of these things, and we'll come back. I'll see you next time.